Rusty the pony learns a lesson. Once upon a time, sweetie, there were two siblings named David and Ruth. They heard about a special horse that could count by stamping its foot. It got them all excited, and they wondered if our pony Rusty could do that too. David said, "I bet Rusty can count too." Ruth nodded and said, "Maybe we could teach him." So, they decided to let Rusty out of his shed. As Rusty came out into the yard, he pranced around joyfully, snorting and puffing. His breath turned into white steam in the cold air, making him look like a magical creature. David said, "He's like a locomotive," and chuckled. "Look at his smoke!" Ruth, full of excitement, shouted, "Let's be passengers!" She pretended to be on a fancy train. "I'm on the Pullman. I'm getting dressed in one of those little berths." "I'm having breakfast in the diner," David joined in, following her lead. He scooped up some pretend air and chewed it noisily. Both of them were giggling so hard that they didn't notice Rusty suddenly stop in his tracks. Ruth stumbled into Rusty and fell flat on the ground, with David falling over her. "What happened?" David asked. "There goes Rusty into his shed." He was hungry, Ruth realized, seeing Rusty nosing his feed bucket. Just then, they heard the 5 o'clock whistle from the mill downtown. They always fed Rusty at 5. David chuckled and said, "Rusty doesn't need counting lessons. He can tell time already." And so, as the bedtime story comes to an end, my dear, David and Ruth learned an important lesson that day. They realized that every creature, even our beloved pony Rusty, had its own unique talents and abilities. They decided to appreciate Rusty for who he was, a wonderful pony who knew when it was time to eat. Now, let's snuggle up and say a heartfelt goodnight to Rusty, feeling grateful for the special pony in our lives. Sleep tight, my little one, and dream of more adventures with Rusty tomorrow.